Hey everyone. So I've been wanting to do this, kind of cover the patch notes they kind of roll out for the applicable system updates for AMD's Radeon Vega 2. And right now we're in a very interesting stage where we're able to see a lot of things kind of roll out. And I ran into some issues with streaming. Unfortunately, it's only able to stream at 1080p at the very moment. So this was the update that I popped when I hit the check, which was the new optional one. So I was going to go ahead and pop into that one. But I did want to cover what AMD had. I found some really cool stuff directly on the forums that they had through Reddit. So I was really cool about that. And I'm going to cover a little bit of the update issue that they've had with the reward system. So if you haven't been able to get Division 2, Resident Evil 2, and or Devil May Cry, you're going to want to stay tuned because I'm going to hopefully give you some kind of like feedback that will give you a nice little situationable wrap up of like what's going on and how they're going to be fixing that and what time frame that they hopefully will be fixing that within. So right now, at this point in time, let me just make sure the audio mics are working because I had an issue with that last night, and then we'll just go straight diving into the news, which everything seems perfect at this point in time. So as you can see right there, where I popped it open and they had their adrenaline update, where we can go through the actual physical Radeon menu, which is super easy to get to. If you don't know how to get to that, just go over here, right click, and Shazam, just open this, and that will pop open this. Then just go down to updates, and then you'll hit check to updates and hit all these other fun stuff. But this is what they're really going to be going into versus the uploads and downloads for like what you will be getting for the more improvement on the visual of the Tom Clancy, because I did notice that there was a lot of issues. It seemed like it was bugging it out. Like with my setup, I'm pretty sure the processor that I was running it on just wasn't able to run it. But it is nice to see that they are updating on the card too, because it seemed like it was maxing the card out too, which it shouldn't really be with how much throttle this thing should basically be having. But so we have the direct support now for Windows 7 for DirectX 12, which is pretty cool, and other games. Now, fixed issues. Radeon Reese Live for the VR sometimes failed in an install during the Radeon software installation. Fan curves may fail due to switch on the manual mode. After the manual toggle is switched, the fan curves is still set to default behavior. That would be annoying, especially if you're trying to keep your stuff cooled while you're trying to tinker with some overclocking. Change made in the Radeon Wattman settings via Radeon Overlay may sometimes not save or take effect once the Radeon Overlay is closed, and that's very true. I've actually had that issue myself where you had to tinker it or reset and just kind of go back and forth. So the known issues that they've had right there directly were affiliated with some games, some cursors, and other performance metering as it is dialogued right there. Rainbow Six still having some gameplay issues. Then you have your added Vulkan support, so we're trying to get into like more situations. So this is just kind of like a brass across term where they're having the 19.3.2 where they're upgrading a lot. But the main one that I was looking at was the testing and conduction of the labs on the 19th at the 16 gigabytes of what they're going to be doing and composing of an i7 67. Oh, so that's not too bad because that's roughly where mine is, just a little bit below that. We're meant to 67K, and I have mine clocked at like 4.4, so it should be on par decently to like run a lot of this stuff. And my frame rate on Division was horrible. It was like 45 to like I think it was like 43, and I can show that if anyone wanted to see that split second, we can just do that as a quick test to show like maybe this might work after we do the reset and install this situation. So that's kind of nice to see that there are footnotes to the performance from the drivers. So that's giving me a lot of hope. Let's see here. AMD Mobile Processors. So again, this is like their brass points of what they're doing for the drivers and installs. You can click right there in order to actually download the packages just in case you're not. So I mean like Radeon is pretty cool, and I definitely do dig like where they're actually giving a lot of install support for the situation. Because when I went to their Reddit, it wasn't anything. But let's go to where people were talking about rewards. I did mention I was going to cover that, and this is the portion where we're going to cover it. Now I experienced it. I submitted my thing. I was like, oh shoot, I want to play Division. That's what's up, and I didn't get to for like almost about 3 to 4 days, and I actually had to hit them up, and then they were swamped by 5 days of a lag and an email as I already had a claim note So it was kind of semi annoying a tiny bit, and I wasn't able to physically get exactly what I wanted to. And I think I might have accidentally closed the other page that I had open. Let me see if I can close this really fast. Yeah, I had a really cool email pulled up from where AMD directly hit me back and told me that right now 1080p is the only thing that they have. And again, this is where I pulled up where you can go to the driver support and you can get everything if you're not already having that. You can select your driver portion. Everything is very conveniently laid out on AMD. But this was them saying that if you have not gotten it, they're sorting it out, the cause and delay in the process of the system. So they're promising by as of Monday, we have assigned the games to the valid orders to everyone and received the notifications yesterday. For Resident Evil 2, Devil May Cry, we'll be distributing the keys the midweek. So we're looking at about like mid next week ish, maybe by the latest, but mid this week, probably more than likely. So stay tuned for that one. I definitely do want to give them a nice little heart for that one because I do appreciate that. That was an inflicted portion for me, myself. Now, let me see if I can really quickly pull up what I wanted to. Um, I'm trying to, I'm wondering why it closed that so much. But let me go ahead and let's see here real fast. Let's go to. Give me one. Okay. I don't know why that was so damn difficult. Google was being super weird. Sorry for the MIA moment right there for a split second. That's probably there for like at least 30 seconds or so where it's just a dark screen where there's no talking. Yay. Anyway, so this is what I hit them up with. About like roughly, as you can see, it was very early end of February, so not too long ago, like roughly about 2 weeks ago as they've been patching. And I basically articulated to them that, hey, I stream in 4K and that, unfortunately Nvidia is beating your butt because they're able to do it really well through their processors. Now, does it look really amazing? It's okay. I prefer the X264 method. Like, it looks so much better when you can run it through a processor. Thank you, AMD, for your Threadripper. Though I probably need a better motherboard to push what I'm wanting to do. But that's another day and another rant of its own in technology. What I'm getting at is basically I was able to articulate to them that it was failing at 1080p and you had to drop the performance down to speed in order to actually even make it physically work without it stuttering. And it looked okay, but if you put it on balance, it'd be like kind of depending on what title you're playing. If it was like Kingdom Hearts, something really heavy on pixels, um, it would basically falter, and it just seemed like it was just not digging it. So it's like, luckily for me, as I kind of articulated there, and then they hit me back. This is where they directly were just like, yeah, man, we know that this is a known issue at this point in time. And unfortunately, the team is investigating it, and they don't really have a way of saying when they're going to do it, but they do know that it is a main issue. So right now, as they can see, there is no workaround other than using the 1080p for now, and you have to use either balanced and or speed. So I'm hoping that this update will fix a lot of this stuff. So, but with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and pop back here, and I can go ahead and just close this, because I would like to leave. I closed all that stuff, and let's go ahead and install the update. Ooh, release notes, so we can see what's going on real quick too. And again, that takes you right to where we were before, so you can get everything you want directly right there. But hey, you're watching this, it makes it a little bit easier. And we're doing an install. And we can run some benchmarks. Maybe we'll do some division right at the end. Make it very short, maybe a 15-minute video. Yes, I would like that. So I mean, this is the kind of the fun part where I liked having like another PC where I can just run this on the side where it wasn't tripping out. All right. Yes, I accept and agree. Please make my Vega 2 run faster and do all that fun stuff. Yes, 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 yes. Same old, same old. They really do need to work on like making a all-in-end, just like very simple template to these kind of things. One thing I should probably do too is we can probably go to Task Manager, go ahead and just pop open performance situations, see that on the side. That way we can just kind of see what the process point. So it's not too hefty for as far as that. World War Z, it seems very interesting to me. I like the whole point of them kind of running up and like big mobs of zombies. I haven't read too much about Mutant, but it looks interesting. Caught my eye the first time I saw that. And then this game, when AMD finally sorts out their gamer tag things, I'm really confused why they made that so difficult. Like, it was just a key you sent in. And then the Wattman. That is the best thing you can do for sophisticated points and just doing current speeds and OCs and all these fun things. Now, I haven't tinkered around too much past just expanding the bit, I guess the band to about like 2000 and just kind of like upgrading like the memory just a little bit, so it runs decent, but it's nothing super crazy where it's just like, oh hey, I'm running like super overclocked, because it's very impatchable stages right now because it's so fresh and new and there's not a lot of people out there running a whole bunch of stuff directly. Now that's kind of cool, the Radeon Overlay, greater insight in gaming, you can actually see what's going down, GPU scores, very sweet. Seems like my processor's like really it almost peaked there for a second. Actually, it did. But I like my Intel. It works really well. Like, but I also like AMD's point, because the more processors you have, the easier it is to actually process the data at 4K. Like, that's one thing most people don't understand that I've understood, that is like once you go from the 1080p to a 4K format, it actually is very useful when you're like actually being able to do that. That's why like on my current computer right now, which I am streaming from, which has my Threadripper, the 2950X, which is amazing. I love that, but it's down to the point where it's like you can only push it so far, and it's able to encumber all these things. But if you did that on a normal like 4-core, 8-core, it would just completely destroy the thing. It wouldn't even know what to do with 4K. It's just like, I don't know what to do pixel for pixel. So I'm very excited to see what the third generation of Ryzen rolls out with Threadripper coming up. Like, that's going to be really cool. Like, I would not even put it past myself of wanting to buy like a 64 core or a 32 core to actually do like medium settings, if not like slow settings on 4K, and have it look crystal clear as I upload it directly to like YouTube without having to do minimal overclocks. Like, that's the one thing you notice is like when you do like less core counts, it's like, yeah, Intel might own the die for die situation and their processing point, because sometimes it can like rival how fast it can like compute stuff for installations and stuff like that. But if you go to like, Cinebench, you're gonna start seeing differences in like where this processor for processor point where it can do a lot more cooler things. So it's like I see where Intel comes in first, because they do like to give you more bang for your buck for what you have. But for more of the, I guess, wider spread of things of what you can get from and what you can accomplish is probably AMD where it's coming up. But it just really depends on where Computech rolls up and where that's going to end up like rolling the die for like this upcoming like summer, which is going to be great. All right. No, I've already did that. Okay, so let's go ahead and I guess at this point in time, let it load in real quick. Run some benchmarks. Now, last time I ran benchmarks on like the Division, it was not too, wasn't good. It just wasn't good at all. But I did figure out how to make an actual physical portion of it run. So I think I do have to go through the Uplay in order to play it. That's how they usually rock it. So interesting. All right, cool. I was about to say, I was like, it should just log on instantly. I like just like regular installs, but this is the way you have to. Otherwise, it said you literally can have drastic situationable points to like roll out. And as you can see, I've only had 2 minutes of gameplay on this. Like, I've literally had like no gameplay on Division. But should be booting up now, I'm hoping. Shouldn't be too bad. I'm definitely digging where it looks, but like for me, it's like I almost would have wished I would have got it on console, because even though it's like 30 frames, And in order for them to encumber these 30 frames, they will dumb down the pixels. Like, I've watched a really good review where a person was pointing out that at the lowest portion of them going down to the 30 frames, it will actually go down to 980p, which is insane. From like the capture of 4K down to that's like almost 5 times less the gradient. But like when you stand still, the way that they do the overlay of fixing all that and patching it where the picture is, it's really good. So I don't mind it, honestly, in that standpoint too much. So let's go ahead and go to our settings. And that was just my makeshift character, just so I can boot it in. I just hit randomize. I really wanted to like actually make one really great. Let's hit our benchmarks and let's see where it's running now after this update. Because again, I was averaging anywhere from 30 to 40, which was really bad. Like, I was really a little bit disappointed by it, just a tiny bit, just because I was just like, wait a minute, this is Radeon Vega 2 or R7, whatever you want to call it, or VII, or I don't want to get untechnical, but I do want to get technical. But the point being is that, like, I thought that would have been able to be comparable enough with just the processor, so I had to do some cross canceling, and as you can kind of see, it does look a little bit smoother than the... Oh my gosh, it fixed it! Holy crap, yes! Look at that, that's beautiful! That's hella beautiful! It started off at a strong, like, 50 to 60. Now it is dropping a lot, and you can see where it's like starting to do frame tear, which is really nasty. And we've dropped to like a mid 40, which is very nasty. But the GPU isn't like doing anything past like 98 to 97. Before it was almost 100, and the processor is definitely dancing around a lot more than what it used to as well. Now, is this a kind of acceptable? Better than what it used to be, because right there it used to be down to 30 to 40. Now once we get down in the field, that's where you start seeing a lot more heavier situations inside of the actual test, because it's doing like this frame tear as you're kind of going into a new environment. Now as you can see right there, it dropped again, but again, this is really nice the way that it actually is rolling. And we'll look at the settings one more time to make sure I didn't put it in a lower setting. Very well could be possible, because I was toying with it the whole time before trying to make it work, and we'll max out the settings and see what happens. But I think this is on max settings. Last time I hit it was ultra. Everything was pretty much there. So for updates go, they did a good job. It seems like they somehow upped the frame rate point, and like the GPU is not, it doesn't sound like it's huffing and puffing as much as it usually does. I can hear the fans kick in. Like, that thing's pretty freaking heavy for as far as it's going into. But it seems like we're already getting up to like 16 minutes too, and I want to be weary of my time frame. Alright, so average 48, 90, 42, not too bad. This is my stock run directly on top of that situation. So they did a decent job. Before, it was like probably the overlay chart, if I had one, was down below there, which is not good. Zones where it dropped, though, very interesting. So let's go ahead and go back. Shouldn't take too long. We're going to go ahead and take a peek at what the settings were on top of that, because if I remember correctly, we're on Ultra, but I do want to make sure I'm thorough before we throw out the testing. And I'm throwing the book at this damn update and trying to test it to its maximum. It is loading a lot faster, too, I've noticed. It's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and go to our graphics. See, it still is on Ultra, but let's go ahead and skim down, make sure I didn't change anything. VSync, frame, shadow quality, high. Because you can, if I remember correct, get them up to very high. Like, let's go ahead and max the crap out of this. Everything on just ridiculous settings, and then I'll end it at that, and we'll see what go to the book at this thing. I know the minute we get to the reflection levels, that's where it's going to start tripping out. And we'll try... I have a feeling if we push this down, that's where you're going to start seeing a lot of the quality of it run a lot better. Because I think it's the reflection of the water that trips it the hell out. Like trying to be like an RX-7.
Projected texture, water quality, projected texture, projected texture resolution, terrain quality.
So that's pretty much it. You can apply. There is a lot of issues right now with the confirmation of this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, it will freeze it sometimes, so we have to reset it. Division 2 is in some beta phasing itself. But now that we've finally hit that, let's go ahead and go back. Go to our benchmark, and let's see if I can actually make this work now.
Bench video.
Now my computer itself sounds ridiculously huffy and puffy right now. But let's see what happens. And then I'll run a medium test with like bringing down the shadow and the water that I had up since those are seeming like they like to downtune it even on ultra. I mean, first out the gate, again, it wasn't really affected that bad. Again, we're probably seeing very similar testings, even maxing out. Now, as it gets to the water, we might see some more, I suppose, like flip backs where we're getting into it. And yeah, like now you're starting getting down to the very low 40s. But it's still fighting like a champ. I'll give it that much. The 98%, as you can see right there, is holding the line a lot stronger than what it was before as the top out. It's very lowly going down to a light thing. But it doesn't seem like the frame rate tearing isn't... It's not horrible. The water does look really good, I gotta admit. I mean, it's... would I like it to be 60? Absolutely. This is horrible right here, this part. You know, like, dropping almost to 40 to 30%, where it's just really unusable if you're doing an FPS, honestly, in today's day and age. Like, it's not good stuff, I'll tell you that much. Not good stuff at all. Alright. So pretty chill right there so far. We're already getting into that processing point, but we've dropped to 30 to 40, so that water and that seems like the darking textures of the shadowing is probably another frame rate point where it's coming into. So let's try the two of those, knock those down, and see what happens. And then I can see the playback of it, because it really looks really great for like the playback on like on YouTube, like for like having like a sample pack of like what this thing can do at its maximum. I liked how we ran 3 benchmarks, basically, at that point in time. Alright, Zone 4, you are completed. As you can see, this was amplified. So before, where this was just kind of a blip, we see the transfer from Zone 3 to Zone 2 to be really bad. So let's go ahead and see if we can bring down the shadow texturing and see what we can go from there. Then I'm going to end the video at that point in time. Really push forward. Trying to eat something, because I'm hungry. I'm very hungry. It's a bummer that Red Dead Redemption didn't fix the update for what I really wanted it to do, because I really wanted to get back into gameplay. Alright.
Game, video,
Graphics.
Graphics quality.
This, we'll dip it back down to Ultra.
Frame rate limit. Frame rate
Apply.
limit. Off. Site cut bright VSync off.
So that should bring our shadowing, everything back down.
Resolution.
We'll go to our water, and this is where I'm going to change it. I'm going to change this. Go to low, and then I'm going to change, where is it? It should be right here, I think. Spot shadowing, no, it's the shadow quality. Go to medium, drop those, hit apply. Now again, that's probably going to affect it, but if it gives me a solid 60 FPS, I can care less, honestly. I'm already playing it on PC, and it's going to out-trump that of what is going to be on a console right now today. And from what I heard, it's the stablest version that we have right now, so all things considered, I'm trying to raise my benchmarks, you know? Go for the gold, coach. Ooh, alright, I like it. It's already running that Olympic torch. Let's go. Division 2. You gotta get to the chopper, as Arnold would say, instead of 83%. Where this Phoenix seems like it's dancing around some... Oh, I thought maybe it crashed for a second. So far out the gates, not bad, but it seems like it's going to exemplify the same thing again. Now, it seems like it's a lot more relaxed on the GPU this time around. And the frame rate itself seems like it's fighting for it, but it's just very interesting the way that this is turning around. And I'll run probably one last test just to completely wipe it out on a 67K before having to switch my GPU over to my 2950X, which should comparably be able to... I mean, that's going to be ruling it out with a processor to see if that's going to be this solid 60 FPS, which is probably more likely the situation. It's just the processor is not meant to do that. I mean, it's just 4 cores, not 16, so it's able to handle stuff. Now, again, I understand that like the Threadripper technically isn't a gaming PC technical setup, but the 2950X was geared towards it, so it was a lot more comparable for what they were doing. So it could be a little bit cooler in that situation, but I have to play with the settings in that general standpoint. But I do like how it is pretty much fighting itself above 40 on this situation. Oh, division. Our FPS is probably going to go back to 48, 49 if we're lucky. Better take a log, guys. I'm very interested to see what the final chart is, though. So now you can see where the GPU, it was steady the whole time. So the shadowing definitely did play a big part into it, but we actually got less frame rates. by turning stuff down. So it's like almost like the Radeon 7 likes to be abused. I am so confused on how that works. But let's go ahead and go back and do one last setting test, and that's just going to be on the lowest setting possible to see if 60 FPS is even possible to ascertain on this processor at that point in time before having to cross cancel and check. And I can make a video about that later on if anyone's ever interested, with benchmarks and me comparing that between processors. Like right now, this is mainly for patch notes. So I'm just trying to make this thorough, basic, and to the point. I don't want to make this super long. Let's go ahead and go to the bare bones, low, F. This is bare bones 4K, hopefully hitting 60.
Cycle with left or right.
Confirm.
Sync the display of
Confirm.
the scene to the brightness, graphics
Alright.
quality,
Benchmark.
gameplay, distance you, benchmark.
So we want to beat 45 and 60. We hit 45 last time, and I want to beat 60. This isn't ascertainable. I'm just gonna give up on this PC. So far at the gate, though, that was... Oh my dear gosh. We beat 60. So I need to figure out what is causing that, but that looks beautiful. There's no frame rate tear at all-ish, except for the very... You can see the tree line. It kind of does it from time to time where there's a stutter. Damn, look at my processor though. That thing is like, I feel like I gave it some like cheetah blood. I was like, it's okay, little one. You can drink the cheetah blood. You'll live forever. And forever, I mean for the next 30 seconds. I definitely see where it's rendering in a crap load all at once as we kind of come around the corners, but it is a lot more steadier. I mean, besides it having to struggle with load-ins, and that's one of the things that a lot of people were mentioning before of what the load-ins were, as you can see right there. So like a medium setting might work really well now for this game. As you can see, the GPU is not maxing out, the processor is working in a lot of tandems with the GPU, and it seems like this is just a really good coalescence of like what can actually be ascertained in like this game. As we benchmarked before and after on a low setting and a high setting and an ultra setting. I've tried medium before and it really didn't work, so maybe now down around this bout it might actually work. So, not too shabby, honestly. All things considered, I mean, for 120 FPS, still running at that 4K benchmark, that's pretty good. Like for the resolution, now graphics preset, that's pretty bad, but just for thoroughness, and this is, I'm pretty much going to end it at that. Like I do want to see what happens when medium comes into play now with this new update. That was pretty bad before. I was like a little bit like disappointed with going to medium, and I was like, oh no, what's going to happen?
Distance, keep video, graphics quality.
Okay, so we did low, and obviously there's a few different settings. There's your high, and then let's go to medium, see how that applies. And maybe we might be able to apply and try to see how high works.
Left or right. Limit the frame rate. VSync frame rate limit off. Benchmark video.
So my guess would be about 100 FPS after seeing what happened there in the last situation. Okay, 70s. So medium will ascertain above a 60 FPS. But I am seeing a lot of frame tear, like here and there. It looks okay, but it's just mainly on those wide 360s, and it's probably more likely compared because of the way the graphics are rendering as it turns. But nice, it's starting to pull out. It has a strong 80 as we come around, so again, it's above that 60 FPS, what I wanted. So I'm thinking high now might be your sweet spot for a nice 60 FPS, where this might drop, but again, this is above. And as you're turning in, it's not too bad. As you kind of come around those corners, you can kind of see where things are rendering with the trees and the leaves. As you get down to the far distant stuff, as you can come around this corner, you'll probably see it again near the explosions, where it'll pop in, and the foliage will probably start to become more renderish. Like right there, the platform just kind of popped into play. Now my processor on my Threadripper, though, that thing is going nuts for this. It loves it. First time I've ever seen it idly go to 7 to 8%. This is pretty cool. But I don't like that stutter it has every so often. But a lot of people did mention that the division in general has been having this issue. So again, low and medium will run this very comparable with just utilizing the actual GPU as the strong portion of your processor. Even with the 67K from Intel, you can still ascertain like a really good benchmark. Let's go ahead and go back, and I'm going to give it one more good college run just to be thorough and have the set point for what we were going to have for the high setting, because ultra doesn't work, and neither does custom. When you go ultra, highest you can get is like roughly about like a little bit above 30%
Key map,
failure rate of frames. It's not good.
Video, graphics.
Alright, so let's go ahead and go to our medium graphics. We're going to go here and go to high. We're going to go to F. We're going to go to apply. It's going to do its thing. Okay, it's processing. Having to change a lot of things. Give it a second. Yes, I know. Norton is currently performing.
Cycle with left or right.
Well, don't, Norton.
Limit the frame rate to achieve consistent graphics and VSync mode.
Alright.
Gameplay.
Benchmark. You probably turned on something different, because it noticed from the ultra to low there was a big like blip. Man, that load-in time right there was pretty sweet, though. 81 is where it bogged before 86. So every setting seems to have its own little thing. And where's our FPS hit? Okay, nice. So I can definitely recommend that, like, if you want above 60 FPS and want decent like water rate gradient in this stuff where you can kind of see what's going on, reflections. And well, I mean, you can see right there it dropped a lot as the water kind of comes around the bend. So it's like, it seems like it's the water and the shadows that are definitely giving this like a run for the money for the drop in the frame rate. But I mean, that's not horrible, but I mean that is pretty bad when you're trying to ascertain 60. But look at the difference in qualities that we've kind of like shot, and as you can see, like right there, it's kind of struggling as it comes around the corner, where it kind of just seems like it's kind of just jitters here and there. It's not too bad looking at the playback though on like the screen itself, so it also could be that my playback monitor is struggling to keep up, which it isn't technically supposed to be a gaming monitor. But looking at OBS's lay, you can definitely see where the micro quake tendencies happen around the edges of the screen for when it makes wider turns for the frame rate tears. It's kind of annoying, but it doesn't look too bad when you look at it through OBS. So if you're experiencing it through your overlay and you're streaming, it probably isn't that bad. But I can get used to it. Alright, so this one's probably going to land probably like a 58, 59, hopefully. It was a pretty strong situation. Like, so I would probably want to almost bring mine at like medium, just because the FPS value would be there a lot better. And then toy with some of the settings to make it a purring 60, which you can bring up, bring down type situations. But that's my patch note. I'm going to go ahead and hit escape. We're going to escape out of the whole situation. And I'm going to say, hey, if you're new to the network, you can definitely hit a like, share, and subscribe. And if you definitely dug the benchmarks, maybe I can start jumping into that if the large enough community left comments and I were able to
settings,
break away with some good time
tab
for
left
doing
to
it.
go
But
to
yeah,
home.
57, that's
Tab
not too
right to
shabby,
go to patch notes.
could be better.